right. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Josh Lockhart here, and this is the Young Pro Showcase. Every single week, we are here Tuesday, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and every week we bring top young professionals in our space, in our business that are just winning big. We have topics, training topics, educational things, fun things that you can grow your business, grow your brand. All the types of things that young professionals out there are trying to do. And so this week, we have a good friend of mine, and this guy's just crushing it. We have these things called rings. I saw somebody, they were asking, what's this ring thing about? How do you get a ring? Why is a ring important? It's just a representation of the income, the deposits, the commission deposits in your bank account over the last 12 months. And this gentleman has attained his $50,000 ring. We're not making income claims. We're just saying that's the name of the ring, 50K ring, and it represents, that's just what it is, right? And he's done incredible things. One of our top recruiters in our business. So if you're watching right now, you're like, okay, should I listen to this guy? Yes, he is one of the very top recruiters in the entire company. He's making money, he's winning, he's helping a lot of people, and he's like one of the coolest guys I know, right? Edmond Hunter. Edmond, good to have you on here. Did you see my Telegram comment earlier today?
No, I did not.
All right, so I'm gonna let everybody know. So, right, if you saw the thumbnail for this video, right, Edmond's looking fresh. My wife made that, right? Michelle made that. She does a great job. And she was looking for the picture. I said, hey, today we're gonna be talking to Edmond. And she goes, which one is Edmond? I said, well, the guy in the sharp suit, the really good looking one. She goes, oh, okay, got it. It was like that. So, people just know, man. People just know.
That's what's up.
Yeah. But I know I'm not even asking you if you're doing good, because you're always doing good, aren't you?
Yeah, man. And if I'm not, I don't tell too many people. Okay, I just keep a positive attitude, keep it moving forward. It's funny though, because I used to kind of laugh at, people say, how are you? And then everybody gets a standard answer. I'm doing good. But inside, are they really doing good? But there's a lot to that, right? The mind knows what you tell it, you know what I mean? And it will conspire to bring about all the things you tell it. And so when we actually get very serious about, well, today's really not a good day, and, I'm not really doing that great. Well, then that's probably how your days will continue to be. And I remember when the pandemic hit, I was like, man, this sucks, right? But I didn't speak it. And it was like so purposeful. I remember telling myself, when people ask me how I'm doing and they expect that answer that, hey, everything is really crappy right now, just like everyone else is saying, I'm going to say the complete opposite. I'm going to say, man, I'm doing so well, right? I'm doing fantastic. You know what? I'm extremely blessed, especially considering the circumstances, right? And after a while, that just became really, really true. I was like, you know what? I am blessed. I am doing really well. And it got exciting because I was like, man, even through all of these, crazy circumstances, we still have so much to be thankful for.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we don't want to compare to other people, but I mean, you go outside the U.S. and it looks differently from where we got it, right? Many of us just have too many first world problems, right? But also, I mean, you talk about that, and as an entrepreneur, as a business person, I mean, we have lots of ups and downs. Now, I didn't plan on talking about this, but since you brought it up, we have lots of ups and downs. And I'm pretty laid back. People know me as pretty laid back, I would say. And you're definitely, I think you might have a bit more chill than I do, right? If that's even possible. Yeah, a little bit. So giving an honest answer, right? And maybe even make a comparison from who you are to now to maybe a year, 5 years, wherever. Would you say now you just got your 50K ring, one of many, right? So I'm sure we'll get into it. I'm sure you were pretty pumped up about that. But I would imagine, tell me if I'm wrong, honestly, when something good like that happens, you're maybe not as high as you used to be potentially. Right. And then when something bad happens, you're maybe not as low as you used to be.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's important. I mean, and some of that you you get through experience, right? It's like over time. Yeah, I mean, just imagine, remember getting your first membership, right? Or like that first, or getting your first recruit. You're like, oh my God, somebody said yeah. Like, and it's just like everything is just, you're like, I'm on my way, like executive director, here I come, right? Like all that stuff. And you recruited one person, right? And so you're just like way up here. And then next week, 5 people tell you no, right? 10 people tell you no. And then you're like, whoa, right? So through experience over time, you start to learn to be even keel, right? And not get too high on the highs and not too low with the lows, right? Because you know that there's always going to be the ups and downs in your business. And when you learn to be that way, you actually experience more highs for longer and lows for less time because of that posture that you keep, realizing that everything is temporary, right? If you're going through something, that's tough, it's temporary, right? It'll change, and you can fix all of that with activity. And as things are going great, you also know, what, just as fast as I got, to this peak, it can also go down. So I need to make sure that I keep my activity high so I stay on these peaks longer, right? And so you kind of learn that through time.
Yeah. Well, and I would even say that like letting yourself get too high, get too like, in the celebration mode, it can last too long. And next thing you know, right, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And B, that takes extra energy to get all hyped up like that. You know what I mean? Like I can remember times where I was just like the whole day, I was like, yeah. And then I couldn't sleep that night. And the next day, I might as well gone out drinking, even though I didn't.
Right. Yeah, like, no doubt.
Yeah. Somebody said something recently about, when I hit one of the rings and they're like, oh man, I was like, I don't know. I think it was Wednesday. It was cool. Don't get me wrong. Like, me and the wife high-fived,
Yeah.
But it was like, I don't know. But that's cool, man. No, it's important. I think too many people, it's like, well, man, could you imagine when we finally do X, right? When we finally get to executive, when we finally get the ring, when we finally do this, then, man, life is going to be different. It's like, yes, it will, just in terms of like, money and what that brings. But it's like, I don't know, if you kind of got a bad life now, it's going to be bad. If you got a good life now, it's just,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There's a little bit of that for sure. Mr. Larry Smith, right? $500,000 ring earner. He always talks about your habits, right? And these habits that you have at $25,000 a year, right? At $50,000 a year, whatever those habits are, if they're poor habits, right? You're going to have those at the next income level, right? So he calls it being broke at a higher level. If you have broke habits and a broke mindset, as you make more money, you'll just be broke at a higher level, right? So it's that same train of thought, or excuse me, you know what I mean? Like it's still the same thing. You're just broke at a higher level. And so it's like when you get too high and you think like, oh man, once I get here, if you haven't developed or changed, those habits, right, then it's all going to be this, it's going to be the same stuff. I think it's kind of the point that you're making there too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a few things. I'm gonna ask you some questions. And I know you just a little bit, so a couple of these might be a little bit dangerous.
Yeah,
just enough. So, you were on. We had you on the show a few months back. Do you remember what month it was? Do you remember what month? I don't remember. It's been a little bit.
September, maybe.
Okay, September, and I remember I asked you, hey, what's your goal? You said the 50K. Here we are. But somewhere in there, you went from part-time to full-time, right? When, and I know it's been a few months. Like, when did that happen?
Okay, so I think I may have actually been on here in August because I went full-time, I think the end of September, beginning of October. I think just before we had the Young Pro compound.
Okay.
That's when I decided to go full-time. So that transition was scary, but I knew I was making the right move for myself, right? Like I was in a place where, I've gotten down a rhythm of activity of, when you can track stuff, you can, you can measure it, you can pretty much predict the future, right? So you get to a place where, right, what's possible with the amount of activity that's going to take. And that kind of came from me after this is one, right? Take this down, guys. For the 10X rule, right? When you read the 10X rule, you start to realize like, okay, like my goals are going to be, in direct proportion of like my activity, and what it's going to take. And I need to understand that I'm going to probably underestimate how much activity it takes to get there. So then once I realized like, all right, however hard I think I have to work to be full-time, got to kind of double that up, right? And once I got to the place where I was like, yeah, I'm willing to do that, then, I decided to jump in full-time, man.
Yeah. Well, I love what you said, predict the future. Because I've said a bunch of times, it's like the difference between professional and amateur. Amateur, you just hope, right? Of course, professionals get paid, amateurs don't, but like I hope it works. I went out and talked to somebody, hope they sign up. Like professional, you can predict the future. Like I'm going to do X, I'll get Y. I can look back at what I've done and kind of predict what's going to happen. And I would say more than anything, you trust yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It's not even, it might only, I don't know how much, it's a small percentage. I trust the business. It's like, I trust myself. I'm going to get up in the morning and do what it takes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my wife, she reminded me, so we've lived in and done business in Michigan, Virginia, North Carolina, and Georgia. So when we were living in Virginia, there was this time when we first moved there where and during the time I was working hard, quote unquote. Yeah. And then she was reminding me like, oh yeah, I'd go out to lunch with this guy or go do here, do this. And she's like, and then it was like a couple years later, we're at our next place we lived at. And she's like, that's when you really started working hard. And it was like almost like stages. Every time I'd be like, okay, this is working hard. And then I'd look back after 2 years and I was like, that wasn't working hard. Like this.
Right.
So
yeah.
It's like the more you do, the more you can do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that comes with, for one, like how you said, like, you trust yourself, so like, okay, I'm gonna do the work. And as you start to do more of that, you get better at it. And as you develop the skill and get better at it, right, it's like, now I can take on more. So like, what used to overwhelm me doesn't overwhelm me anymore, right? Because I've been there, right? I've done it. I put in the time, the reps. So as you continue to get better, right, then you can take on more. And you start to realize too, it's like, wow, there's so many more levels to this, right? You start to think like, oh man, I've gotten to this point. You know what I mean? That's, the highest level of leadership. But then you realize like, cause you get around a certain circle of influence that you're like, oh, wow, like I'm not even close to the level of leaders that we have in the company or that are in now your newest circle, right, of people that maybe the company you keep. And so I think as you continue to grow, right, your skills develop and you just continue to hit, more, heights of this business, but in your own personal development.
Yeah. Well, so let's jump into that for a second, right? So what would you say when you were part-time? Yeah. What did like a good day look part-time versus the kind of work you're putting in now? Yeah.
So when I was part-time, I was working 50 to 60 hours a week at the restaurant as a restaurant manager, and restaurant hours are a little different. So it's not like full-time, 50 hours is, 8 till 6, right? Or anything like that. It's like you go in at 11 and you get home at like 2 in the morning, right? Like it's just a different, you work in that stretch. And so a good day for me was like, okay, I was able to catch enough of a break to send out maybe, 3 to 5 text messages to a list that I had already, written out. Hey, these are the people I'm going to contact. And I would send out those messages. And then once I got off, the people that responded to me, right, that said, yes, I'm willing to take a look at information, I sent them out information. That was always a great day for me, just to be able to get those messages out consistently, right? Like daily, if I was able to get those messages out, once again, I had a pretty good idea of like, hey, these are the amount of exposures I need to be able to do. But I just wasn't able to follow up as fast as I wanted to because of being that busy. But now what my days look like is your days can get away from you now. When you're full time, it's like you feel like you have the time to get things done. Oh, I didn't get it done today, I'll do it tomorrow. All right. Oh, I planned it this way. And so it can be scary going full time. Sometimes when you're part-time, it's almost better because you have such slivers of time that you're like, this has to get done right now. and I can only do follow-up at this time. So I better schedule, my expert for a 3-way call. Like, you're on it, you're sharp when you're part-time, right? But what it looks like now, my activity is, it's easily, 5 times as much now being full-time as far as prospecting goes, just because I have the time to do it and I'm able to block that time off. I remember having, that short conversation with you right after the Zoom this event that I was on with you several months ago. And we were talking about, right, my decision to possibly go full-time. And that's what we were talking about, right, was being able to create a schedule for yourself. And I needed that because I was used to a schedule. I was used to, hey, you clock in at this time, you really don't take breaks, right? And you're, who knows when you're going to get off. And, that was what I was used to. So now being able to kind of manage myself and tell myself, hey, you're clocking in at this time, right? You're not taking a break until this time. But then when you are able to turn it off, all right, this is your time for your family, for your dog. Like, I'm able to kind of schedule it that way. So my activity is so much higher and I have way more time for follow-up, but it's what worked for me. But I think I was able to discipline that over the years of being part-time, but being able to really be very focused in those slivers of time that I had. So now that I just have a little bit more time for it, it's shown in my results.
I mean, yeah, that's been huge. I just think back, and it's just over the years, just as you said, right? I personally, I've just gotten increasingly better at employing myself.
Right.
Like, there's plenty of times it's like, if I was my own boss, I've been like, today I would have fired you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you let the day get away, or, you get stuff that needs to get done at some point. Right. You do that instead of prospecting, right? Like the dishes or, one of your family members' problems, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's important. Yeah, it's your family member. But like, if you had a job, it would wait until after 5 o'clock.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm looking at my schedule here. Like tomorrow, I got 7 appointments already booked tomorrow. It's like, I remember, yeah. I'm trying to get it done too. But I just remember, like, it's like, what am I going to do tomorrow? I'm going to do Legal Shield tomorrow. Well, what does that mean? I don't know, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. That's a big one. So now, I'm sure you have a calendar. Like, what's your, I guess, if you were to like kind of really quick, you don't have to go into all of it, but like, what does your day look like now, right? Like, okay, I'm sure you get up and you got a family and stuff. So how do you kind of like map out your day of what's most important?
Yeah. So I get up at 6 a.m. I use that time from about 6 to 6:30 for prayer, reflection, and then I do my personal development first thing in the morning. Because I found what I usually would do is, like, on my way to work is when I would do my personal development. I would listen to something in the car. But now that I'm not out driving as much, I get my personal development done first thing in the morning, which is good for me because if my day gets up on me, then I don't get to my personal development till the night. And if I'm too tired, right, then we miss it. And the PD is key, right? Your personal development is key. You're probably going to hear my kids coming in the house now. They're loud. Okay. But so that's what I do first thing in the morning. Then I help, get my kids ready for school. We do that. Right after that, though, as soon as I get home, that's my clock in time, right? So when I clock in, I've got to schedule, calls that I'm going to make as far as through the team, right? So I may reach out to my team, some motivation and encouragement, right? Hey, what are we doing? Right. I'm looking in the back office, seeing what they need for their next level. So I kind of do that for about 30 minutes. And then after that, it's strictly like I'm taking 2 to 2.5 hours to prospect. So whether that's calling leads, social media, right, follow-ups that I have, like I take 2.5 hours to do that. And so I don't like deviate from that, right? I'm just all in on that for 2.5 hours straight, because if I do that, like I can get out quite a few messages, right? Like if I'm doing social media, I'm probably going to contact anywhere from 50 to 100 people on social media if I have that much time, right?
50 to 100.
Yep.
Now you don't got to give away all your secrets, but let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So is this where are these current friends? Are these groups that you belong to? Like, what's that like?
A little bit of both, right? So you attended GoPro, right? They told us to jump in 5 groups, right? Find things that you like, that you're passionate about. I did that, right? So I jumped in some groups. and you see conversations, and because we're in Legal Shield, we hear things a little bit differently, right? We see comments that people make and we're like, ooh, right, there's a problem there, and Legal Shield is a way to solve it, right? So I'm in these groups now that I'm able to identify people that I can start a conversation with. But typically what I'm doing is, yeah, I'm on social media. I've got 5,000 friends. I did that purposeful though. Like, it was very purposeful how I got to 5,000 friends. I was just adding until I got to 500 friends. And once I got, of course, they're not really friends because I don't know them that well, right? But I get to know them because I'm going to go through them and I map out like, okay, if I want to contact 100 people, right? I go down, a list of people that are on my Facebook and I contact them. And I'm just really saying hi. I think that's a huge thing, is so many people that ask me, hey, what do you say, right? What is your script? Well, when I'm contacting that many people, I'm really not worried about a script. I'm worried about engagement, right? Because that's what's key, engagement. I need them to know who I am. And so I'll just message them, hey, I saw that, we became friends. I'm not sure exactly when we became friends on here, but I'm glad that we are. I just love to connect with my Facebook friends, wanted to say hello, right? Or I'll message them, hey, good morning, Josh. How you doing, man? Right? I was taking a look at your page, man. You seem like an awesome guy, man. Look, would love to connect. I say things like that. And I just go through, that's what I mean by I can contact 50 to 100 people. And so then the ones that message back, right, then that's how I start a conversation to be able to create engagement.
No, that's awesome. I was listening to this is a YouTube podcast a year ago, random thing, couldn't even tell you what it was. And there was this top real estate agent.
Yeah.
She had made whatever great money. I don't even know. It was good money, whatever it was. It was a big number. And she had done it door knocking. And so what she called it, she mapped out an area where she lived. It was like this community of 1,000 homes, let's say, and she called it her garden. And she would just always door knock her garden. If it was a holiday, she would drop off holiday stuff.
Right.
She was always doing stuff in her garden. And I was just thinking of that. I guess that's a good way to think about your 5,000 friends. If you're going to be on social media, i.e. Facebook, you got to have 5,000 friends. I don't have 5,000 friends. I think I have 3,500. So I got some work. Right.
Yeah.
And then that's the garden that you till, and then harvest comes.
And a lot of times you got to purge, right? That's sometimes the most important part is to purge, because look, like I want to have friends, right, on Facebook, but look, I'm here, right, to grow and build a business, and the people that join my business are going to become friends. And so that's what I'm really looking for, right? I'm looking for folks that want to join our business. And so if there's, you're going to get those people, hey, don't ever message me again. All right, great. Delete, right? I remove them and then I add a new person. So that's what I'm looking to do. I'm constantly, going through people. I'm reaching out. Now, look, some people may say no, but that still may be a good person to stay in contact with, right? And so I am developing relationships, but there's always going to be some, look, they're going to read your messages. They're not going to respond back, like all that stuff. I don't really worry about it as much anymore, because I understand that, some people say that this isn't a numbers game because this is a relationship business, which it is, right? And we don't want to look at people as numbers, right? But when you get analytical about it, if you want to break down and, like we said in the beginning, be able to predict, right, what your future success is going to be, it's a numbers game. And so I know that if I contact a certain amount of people, right, then I know how many people are going to, message me back, how many from that will look at information, how many from that will eventually join.
Well, absolutely. I mean, every business has reports. They got numbers, they got data, right? We spend so much on advertising, then we do this, then we do this. They have a customer acquisition cost.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're the same. You know what I mean? And then, so I'm married, right? That's a relationship. I had to go through some numbers to meet my wife. Right?
No doubt. Yeah.
Now, I couldn't tell you what the ratio was. And if I did, I still wouldn't tell you. But
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Don't tell your wife the ratio either, brother.
Yeah. She's probably upstairs hearing this. So now you mentioned leads. Do you call leads?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Is that something that you've started doing recently, or have you always done? Or I played around with it, right? I was an amateur with it. Started probably in about 2017. I called some, I was calling leads.
but I never was consistent. And then I listened to a training by Brian Carruthers, and he was talking about the average. What was he saying? The average network marketer, how many people they contact, right, on a monthly basis. And so he said, imagine if you had 50 to 100 leads, but you did it consistently for a year, right? That's 600 to 1,200 people that you'd be able to reach out to in a full year. The average person doesn't reach out to that many people, right? So when I heard that, for me, it was there something clicked. All right. And I understood that this business is about your consistency, but I also knew that, look, where I am 12 months from now will be so much, I'll be such a more of a professional, right? 12 months from now, if I do this consistently. And so I wasn't really looking for results in the beginning, right? I was committed to investing in myself and growing. I wasn't worried about the results. I knew that, look, I'm going to call this, 50 to 100 leads every single month. And I may not sign anybody up the first month, second month, third month, but I started that probably, working it consistently in, I want to say July of 2020.
Okay.
July of 2020, I started working, some leads consistently. I don't buy a lot or anything like that, but I do have a consistent amount that I call. And, over time, it got to the point where, okay, like I'm going to, recruit a few people from this every month, right? Because I've just gotten better with the skill, because it's really a skill. I really don't even recommend it to people initially, right? Because it takes time to build up the skill of talking to a cold market, right?
Yeah.
But I committed to the process, and it's starting to yield results.
That's awesome. I mean, that's something I've done quite a bit. I like it. You know what I mean? And it's nice. I mean, anytime you want, you can just be like, boom, ready to call people.
Yeah.
And once you get past that, I mean, it's nearly on demand, right? So that's good. That's great to hear. That's great to hear. Everybody should, I think, I mean, what we do is we communicate. Now it could be you communicate through social media, but at the end of the day, right, you gotta have phone skills, right? You gotta get somebody on the phone. You gotta communicate to them, whether that's on Zoom or the phone or whatever. Like, those are the skills you have to have, right? So it's, at some point you got to get off the keyboard. Cool, man. Cool. Now that's good stuff. We'll have to have a side secret conversation. The lead. Sorry, guy. No, I'm just
right.
Kidding. I'm just kidding. So, all right. Well, so let's talk about some of the good side, right? So the good side, like that was bad. No, like the fun side. So you just hit your 50K ring. What, it's been like I think it's been like 2 weeks, haven't it?
Yeah.
Hasn't it? 2 weeks. 2 weeks. So did you do anything to celebrate?
A little bit. Not a lot. I know that me and my girlfriend, we plan on going out to eat. There's a restaurant that we've never gone to that we're like, okay, we're gonna eventually go there. It's pretty pricey, so I was like, right, I don't know, but we decided, look, we're gonna celebrate, because I've been a person. Look, we spoke about this in the beginning, right? We kind of said, sometimes we're even killed, and I'm definitely that way. I would much rather celebrate other people than them to praise me, acknowledge me, recognize me. It's not even something. Or I get uncomfortable and shy about it, but. So sometimes we achieve certain goals and we forget to live in that moment, right? And to really do anything to celebrate our accomplishment and to recognize, look, man, that took a lot of work, right? And I'm proud of myself. And so I've taken this time to really sit back and reflect. That's one thing that I've done for myself, because usually I'm right on to the next thing. Right. I'm like, okay, look, I got the 50,000. That's great. But the goal is the 6-figure ring. Right. Once I get close to that 6-figure ring, I know I'm going to move immediately, right, to 150. Like, that's just how my mind works. But I said, you know what, Edmond, take some time to sit back and to appreciate the accomplishment. Right. And to really reflect what got you here, because what that's done for me is allowed me to realize some of my shortcomings. Like, hey, I got here even in spite of some of the things that I'm not even that great at yet, right? So I've been able to identify those things and say, look, I know if I, really work on some of these things, it's going to throw me through that 6-figure ring. And so I've taken some time to really reflect on it. One of my mentors, Mr. Harold Branch, where I'm going to, catch up. Yeah, I'm going to HB. I'm going to catch up with him this coming up weekend to kind of celebrate it, a little bit as well. And then, they threw me a ring earner Zoom that I was like in complete, like I was in the dark, right? I had no clue. And so there's a ton of people there, my friends, my family, a lot of Legal Shield family as well there to congratulate me. So all that was amazing, man. I was completely overwhelmed by all of that. But we've definitely been able to celebrate it. And now, man, we're moving on and pushing forward towards the next goal.
Man, that's incredible. That's incredible. I relate to that, right? I completely relate to that. I'm that way. In fact, when I was younger, when I was like early 20s, I'd like to go to the gym and get all like, swole looking for the beach. And then I would just end up not going to the beach. Like I did all the work, I got the result, and I was like, I don't even need to go there. I just know that I accomplished it. Like that's
right. Yeah.
So well, talk to me about this, right? So you're at this next level. Has anything in your mind shifted on what you focus on versus, when you're just like, hey, I need to make some money.
Right.
Yeah. As far as like what you focus on in the business, what you're thinking about, what you're like, talk to me about, what that looks like, if there's anything.
Yeah, there's quite a few things. So I feel like when I first was, able to hit the executive position, I don't want to say it was an accident because it wasn't. It was very intentional and it was a lot of work. But continuing to qualify was a different animal, right? Like, I mean, it's like you can, hit something, but, and most people, HB used to say this all the time. Like he would say, some people, they just visit, right? And then there's other people like, they make their campsite, they put their flag in the ground, like they're there, right? And that's where I wanted to be, but I didn't know exactly how to do it. So once I got to the place where, okay, I'm an executive now, like I'm there mentally, I know what to do. I know, how to continue to build managers in my organization and qualifiers so that, I'm not worried as much about qualifications like that happened. But then the next step has been for me, mentoring and building new leaders, right? Focusing on my next level of leadership. And my next level of leadership is teaching to teach, right? Teaching other people to lead, right? Grooming them, because I've had that. I've been so blessed to have people like, Mr. Marcus Twine and Mr. Darnell Self, Mr. Branch, right? I've had, Miss Tanisha Morgan, Miss Jocelyn Brown. I've had really great mentors and coaches that checked in with me daily, right? That picked me up when I was down, that, helped me through all of my limiting beliefs that I had, and really groomed me through, all the ups and downs I had in my business. And so, for me looking, who do I identify with leadership, in my organization? How do I take them under my wing so I can do for them what others have done for me, so that then I didn't feel like I was just visiting, right, as an executive, but that, I've stuck my flag in the ground and this is who I've become, right? So helping other people to become that is what my next step has been.
Okay. No, that's great. That's great. And I want to shout out to Dan. Hey, Dan, good to see you, man. Dan's watching. He's a good guy.
Dan's the man.
Yeah, he is. We've known each other a long time. So I started the business in Michigan, and he's a Michigan guy. He's up there freezing his tail off. It's probably in the teens. I can't imagine. Right. I am not jealous. But so if you don't mind, and you don't have to get into too many specifics, but I mean, do you have? So, talking about developing leadership, do you have some folks on your team? Because sometimes, and I'll just say, I've had plenty of times where I had people on my team that were producing, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna help this person as much as I can, and I'm just gonna give them everything I got. And next thing I know, it's like they're gone. I look back and I'm like, okay, well, they weren't really like solid. They were like you said, they were visiting, you know what I mean? They were doing a little bit, but they didn't really get into the, I don't know what you call it, daily method of operation.
Right.
They weren't clocking into their business on a regular basis.
Right.
Maybe they had some influence and it was kind of easy for them. So they could go, oh, hey, jump in, got a little money. Now I'm off to other things. So, I mean, do you have some folks on your team that you would say they're like, oh man, these are ride or die folks on whatever level they are?
Yeah.
And then what is like your communication with them, like, daily, weekly?
Yeah. So I definitely do. Right. I have several people on the team that, and it's tough because life happens. Right. So that's a tough one because you feel like some people you're like, oh man, this person is here for the long haul with me. Right. I've got my person. Right. I found another me. And life happens, and it happened to me, right? I was in the business all in and then took a year break, right? Because I was like, this is too much. And so you can look at a person and identify leadership qualities and all that. You can't fall in love with somebody's potential, right? Because you fall in love with their potential and it takes you out of phase one, right? Which is to be in activity, to continually prospect and look for new leaders and continue to build your team. But but it's still important, right, that when you do identify leadership, that you help to groom it, because without it, right, then you'll lose the person for sure, right? Because you're not there to really help build them, right, and to support them in that leadership. Some people are going to do it no matter what, right? But what it looks like for me is I've scheduled like coaching calls, really a plan, do, review session with my leaders where we just meet, once a week, and we really talk for 30 to 45 minutes and hey, what's working, right? What's not working for you, right? Like where do you feel like you're at in your business? What is and so I'm bringing those things out of them, right? Asking them the questions, and I can really identify hey, where are they at? Where can I best serve them? Where can I best help them? Right. So we're doing that with each other. And of course, like, we're tapping in, doing 3-way phone calls. We're sending the text messages, checking. Right. So we speak daily, but we're having this one day per week where I'm really focusing in on them. Right. To then help to build them, because what you want in this business is leverage. Right. I was actually just speaking to Mr. Self a few days ago, and we were talking about, a person on our team that, really wanted a lot of control, right, with their business. And that's okay, right? You want a lot of control, but when you're brand new, right? Hey, you're brand new. Like, I need you to get into the system. I need you to know what the system is. But like, when you have that little bit of a push, right, you want to say, look, most people get into this for leverage, right? And if it's all about what you do for your team, then you don't have leverage, right? You have linear income. If you're there, then you can produce. But if you're not there, then there's no production. And so when you start to groom these leaders, right, and just people in general on your team, then it creates leverage for yourself, because now you have other people in place, another you, so that as they start to develop and grow a team, right, it doesn't have to be you anymore that communicates to all of their team yourself. Maybe I don't have to do every GPI for my team because I've helped groom somebody and do game plan interviews. Right. I've helped groom someone so that they know, hey, look, these are the first steps. So they do all the things all the way up until setting up their private Zoom. That's what that's for, right? To be able to identify that. So it takes some of the responsibility off of the leader, so that then the can focus on, continuing to build more leaders, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I like what I said, if you have to do everything, and I've seen many people do this, and at times I've been guilty of it for sure, is like, you just want to control because you feel like you're the point guard. Give me the ball. I'll take it to the basket.
Get out the way.
And what happens is you're a low paid, self-employed person. You don't have a business.
Right.
The definition, go read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, right? If no one would step in your shoes, i.e. buy it and it could run without you, you don't have a business.
Right.
Right. So I remember hearing about that, and I was like, looking at my own operation going, yeah, I don't have a and it's my own fault. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's good. That's good. So when, and I'm asking the question, and I know the answer, but people out there, maybe they're trying to figure this out, right? Like, when do you know that somebody's ready to go just do it on their own? Or when do you allow them, or not allow, that's not a great word, but
right.
when do you push them to go do it on your own?
Right. So I'm still learning this, right? This isn't something I've even close to master yet, but where I'm working on it is I remember taking the note and starring it, right? And and talking about, things that I wanted to implement, right? Things that I wanted to apply. And so one of those things was, to help people to become independent of me, right? Mr. Eric Worre said that, my goal is to help you to become independent of me. So there's no exact timetable on that. But when you start to give people assignments, when you give a task, right, you're on the phone with one of these leaders, you're going to give a call to action. Hey, all right, so look, this is what we're going to do, right? Tonight we have our team opportunity Zoom, right? Or tonight we have training or whatever the thing that, the leadership show, whatever it is, right? So, I would love for you to reach out to your team and to invite them to all these things, right? You start to give tasks. When you start to reach out to your team and say, hey, about, this event, right? And they're telling you, hey, I'm already registered. I've already sent that message out to my team. When they get to the point where they're registering for things before you're registered, right? When they're telling you like, hey, Mr. Hunter, did you know about the small business training that's happening on the 19th, right? They're doing that. And you're like, oh, hold on. No, I didn't know. I didn't even know about it yet. Right. And they're registered for events before you are. Right. That's when you can get to a point where, all right, maybe I can kind of loosen the reins because I understand that there's duplication that's happening. That's what the key is that when that person is in a place where they're now giving that same message that you are to their team, right? That's duplication, right? Because you're creating another one of you within your organization.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're working on.
Oh, absolutely. That's good stuff. So yeah, it's like raising a kid. How old are your kids? You got kids?
12, 10, and 4.
12, 10, and 4.
Yeah.
You're not even old enough to have a 12-year-old. Come on, man.
Come on, man. I got a 12-year-old, bro.
Right. So it's like, I don't know, when could your kids do things on their own? One was a year, one was 2 years, the 12-year-old would probably still tying their shoes.
Yeah.
But Katie, -15. You should move, Katie. She says she's in North Dakota and it's -15. That's
crazy.
That's terrible. This is a mobile business.
It's like 70.
You go wherever you want to go.
It's like 70 in Arizona. Sorry, Katie.
Yeah, I mean it's 30 here, but give it a week and we'll be straight. Right. So I'm gonna come back to you here in just a second for maybe any final thoughts that you have, or if you want to give everybody out there a tip, if they're go back 6-8 months, if you would give yourself some solid advice, prior to the ring run, prior to hitting executive director, wherever you were back then, I'm going to come back to you here in a second. But for everybody that's watching, make sure tag somebody that needs to hear about what I'm about to say, right? So tomorrow night, we have our Young Pros, you see on the top of the screen, Legend Series. We have a 600K ring earner. We got all these rings. That's on the calendar, PBLS or the Legal Shield calendar. Check it out. And then this Saturday, here's the big one. This Saturday, we have our first Young Pro influencer event. You're like, what is that? I'm not even going to tell you, right? But it's all on the calendar. So just go read the calendar. Go there right now. Only the first 100 people can be there because it's a Zoom and it's caps out at 100. And I'm pretty sure that it's going to cap out pretty quickly. So you want to make sure that you and your squad gets there first. So go check out the calendar and you need to be there. This is going to be the first one, Young Pro influencer event. So check it out. But anyway, so yeah, what kind of advice would you give anybody that is in your shoes a year ago?
Yeah. I would say the biggest thing for me, like when I reflect back and look at the journey and what's kind of gotten me here has been intentionality. Like that's been like one of the biggest things for me is intentionality. And
that's just a great word, by the way.
Right. Doesn't it just sound good? Right? Intentionality. but you know what I mean? I love saying it, right? Seriously. But to be intentional about what it is that you do, but why is that such a great word, right? For our business, it's great because it does not matter where you are. It doesn't matter, it doesn't respect how much time you have to dedicate to this business. You can be super part-time, but if you're intentional, like you can get this done, right? It doesn't matter if you're a 6-figure earner, right? If you lose your intentionality, like your income will drop, right? And so looking at what got me was I was very intentional about what I did, right? And so I had a plan at all times. I was working a plan. And so when you start to do that, there's boxes you can check off, right? I mean, that starts to simplify things for yourself. When you make this business simple, right? Hey, I know that I need to prospect people, but okay, where am I going to get the people from? So then you start to develop a plan, right? Like, okay, is it going to be a mix of leads and social media and warm market? Now, small business on what it going to be? Where are you going to get those people from? So you start to develop a plan. That takes some patience. And so like I was intentional and I was very patient with the process because I knew like, look, it's not just going to happen overnight. I'm going to have to, really map this thing out. I don't have a lot of time. So I wrote things out. I made a list, and that turned into the habit for me of making a brand new list every single month. Every month I wanted 100 new names on a list. And so I would shoot for that as a goal. Right. And then when you make that list, right, you have to contact the list. Okay. Because some people make the list and they never make the calls. Right. And so that takes you being intentional. And so I was very intentional about what I did. I understood, look, I can't call all 100 people today. I'm really busy, but my goal is to be able to call or text 5 to 10. And so I started doing that. That developed the consistency that it took. Right. And so, at that point that, success is not given, but it's earned. And so you have to be willing to commit to that process. Be patient with yourself. Be really, really intentional about your activity. And when you get that way about your activity, you're consistent with it, you can start to predict the future.
Absolutely. I love that. That's a good line. You can
That's good, man.
Predict the future. So true. So true. I'm looking at the time and I'm like, okay, 7:30, I got my next Zoom and I got to get a couple messages out. So I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to get those messages out. I'm not going to mess with my pens or go check on the girls. I'm going to get done. Yeah. So Mr. Hunter, man, it's been incredible. Thank you so much for hopping on. I'm really excited for you. And I know that the next one is going to be right around the corner. Here in a minute, you're going to be looking like Jordan in that picture. Yeah. Man. And that's just as good looking, if not better.
Woo.
So, all right. Yeah. That's it, man. That's it. All right. Well, you have a great evening, everybody out there. We'll be back next week, Tuesday, 6 p.m. for the Young Pro Showcase. Till next time.